Frank Reich is the head coach. You beat Stanford to end that season to clinch that 10th win, the hottest team in the country. You can't keep them out, Joe.
So now Stanford, because they beat Boston College last week, okay.
Notre Dame's in the top 25 today. They're going to have 10 straight victories. There's no way they stay out. Now, are you telling me that they're going to get tripped up by NC State?
NC State's undefeated.
Still there? I don't even know.
NC State, Dave Torrance there.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Mike McDaniel got a personal victory.
Yeah, he get fired on the tarmac. Okay, I can go
yeah.
back. Yeah.
Well, this has been my take on the Dolphins. I think you'll agree. The more they lose, Tyreek Hill becomes the most important player in football. Because Tyreek Hill getting traded becomes likelier and likelier.
Yeah.
And Don, he's not going to get traded to the Cleveland Browns.
Correct.
This is a guy who's going to shift Super Bowl markets if he is dealt.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the third and the fourth spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome in. It's NewsWire here on SportsGrid, and football is back tonight. We'll have a full preview of all the games coming up this weekend, including Thursday night football between the Seahawks and Cardinals. We'll get to the very latest with everything happening in, of course, the National Football League and a whole lot more. Baseball's races heating up. We'll check in with Danny Burke here on the show in just a few minutes. Paul Stone also has his opinions on the latest in college football. He'll break down a few games for us as well. We'll also have the SportsGrid sound off, get a full preview of some of the games coming up this weekend. So stay with us here on the Grid. 90-minute show. For those of you who are just tuning in maybe for the first time, thanks for streaming us along with the rest of you throughout the country, including the Pacific Northwest. I'll get to you fans in just a minute. First, let's start off with the state of Kansas. Lawmakers debating some potential changes ahead of the brand new sports betting influx that will be coming on December the 1st. Missouri is going to launch sports betting, of course, in December. Kansas lawmakers are debating whether or not to change their current 10% tax model. Just like everybody else, industry reps say the setup has generated $36 million and growing in revenue. Some critics are arguing that Kansas ranks low nationally and consider alternatives like a single operator model. Looking to make more money in the sports betting universe. Keep an eye on Missouri. We'll see what their taxes look like coming up later this year. All right, now the game in the NFL tonight is a battle out west. All the teams are above 500 in the division. That will probably stop soon. Seahawks tonight, 1.5-point favorites over the Cardinals. Originally, the Cardinals opened up as a favorite, then it went to a pick'em. Now Seattle a favorite tonight, total of 43.5. Let's get a preview with the head coaches, Mike Macdonald and Jonathan Gannon, ahead of the West Showdown.
You know, really good preparation the last 3 days. The guys have done a great job trying to get their bodies and minds ready for the game. It's a quick turnaround, obviously, but excited to go hop on the plane here and go play our game tomorrow. But I guess injuries, just so we can preemptive strike this. Josh Jones is he'll be out with an ankle. Nick is doubtful. Zach Charbonnet, Boye, and Bradford are all questionable for the game.
They got a good front. They can rush, and then they're stopping the run at a high level right now. So they're playing in front of the sticks on defense, and they can pin their ears back and rush. And then they got good coverage guys in the back end that make the quarterback hold it. That typically bodes well for your rush. But it's a really good front. Got a big time challenge.
Coming up this weekend, it's the matchup that we've been waiting for. Micah Parsons and his Green Bay Packers get their first crack at the Dallas Cowboys with Parsons in a Green Bay Packers uniform. Parsons, they're limiting his media stuff as they probably should. He did speak once and once only yesterday. He says there's no extra fuel going into this game. Yeah, right.
Nah, just for me, I just feel like my fuel's always been trying to be the best player. And, you know, when you got a good team and you got to beat them and you got to show up in a primetime game, this is the moment that you got to be your best player for yourself, for your team, and, you know, everyone there.
How do you make it just another game? I mean, them trading you was the biggest story of the year in the NFL. How do you personally make it just another game?
Well, you know, I just personally, like, just knowing me, like, once the game starts, who's going to be worried about any trade? Like, it's just me against them 5 men in front of me, you know what I mean? And then we got one common goal, and that's to win the football game. And how we win the football game is winning the line of scrimmage and affecting Dak and how good he's been playing this year. So I think, you know, the fans, the media is going to get off on the pre-draft, the hype and all that. But once the game's, ain't no one talking about the trade. We're talking about winning a football game.
All right, now let's get to the Baltimore Ravens. They take on the Kansas City Chiefs this weekend, and they're going to be without their defensive tackle, Nnamdi Madubuike. He is out with a neck injury. He has over 21 sacks since the start of 2023. Their defensive tackle is ill afford to be lost by the Ravens as they can't stop anybody thus far on defense. Here's John Harbaugh on replacing Madubuike this week.
More about Nnamdi's situation, and are you concerned this may be a long-term thing?
Well, yeah, I would say I am concerned about it, but I'm not really in a position to comment on it right now. I haven't been given the okay to comment on it at this point. So he's not going to play this week, I can tell you that. And we're going to have to see going forward when they know what they need to know.
John, we noticed there were 2 defensive linemen added to the practice squad today. Are you concerned with the other guys that missed today? Might be an unavailable Travis Jones or Broderick Washington?
You know, I mean, anything's possible. I'm not per se, but they're nursing some things. We're only less than 48 hours out from the end of the game, so that's. I have a good feeling about those guys, but we'll have to wait and see.
Titans made a trade yesterday. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. was dealt to the Jets for a 7th-round pick as the Tennessee Titans trying to figure out how to get better, maybe with picks this season. Also, offensive or outside linebacker Nolan Smith is going to be out a couple of weeks, of course, with a strained tricep on the Philadelphia Eagles. Tonight in college football, we have one game. It is Army against East Carolina. ECU 4.5-point favorites, total 52.5. This is the lone game on the college football slate tonight. The Cleveland Guardians have taken first place all by themselves. They beat the Tigers 5-1 yesterday, and their run continues. Tanner Bibby, 6 innings pitched, just 1 earned run. And Cleveland, with a couple of more wins, not only can make the postseason, but clinch the American League Central. They're the hottest team in baseball, and Stephen Vogt, the manager, with a great shot to win the Manager of the Year, talked about their performance yesterday.
Flaherty was outstanding as well. He sharp breaking balls, putting his fastball wherever he wanted, and looked like George was just looking to get something in the air with a runner on third, less than 2, exactly what you're trying to do, and got the breaking ball and didn't miss it. So really cool moment for George. It electrified this awesome crowd that we had tonight, got everybody's energy into it, and yeah, good thing we added on and bullpen did what it did.
What do you say about your defense tonight?
I mean, we talk about the defense every night, and it's not enough. The double plays, the line drive by Manzo, the sliding play by Hosey, where we still almost turned that double play. I mean, Rocchio stretched like a first baseman and still almost turned it. And they just continue to make great plays behind our pitching. And, we take for granted the routine plays that these guys make because they make them look routine, and they're not. They're a lot of fun to watch.
And the American League Central now coming down to the wire with Cleveland, not only the odds-on favorite, but the heavy favorite to win the division, minus 750 over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. You see the record there, but Cleveland owns the tiebreaker, so it looks like with a couple more wins, they'll win the division. Same could be said for the Seattle Mariners. How about them winning the West against the Rockies yesterday? First time since 2001. And welcome Cal Raleigh to the home run club. That's correct. 6-0. 1 away from Roger Maris and an outside shot to catch Sammy Sosa's 66. Incredible season for Cal Raleigh, the catcher of the Seattle Mariners. Yankees beat the White Sox 8-1, and they're closing in on the American League East because the Blue Jays keep losing to the Red Sox. So this could come right down to the final day of the season as well. The Blue Jays 90-68, the Yankees 90-68. So get ready for a fantastic finish coming up this weekend. All the Sunday games, by the way, begin in baseball at 3 o'clock Eastern. The Mets are also going to need some wins this weekend in Miami. They keep losing as well. They lose to the Cubs 10-3 yesterday and could be on the outside looking in, except for the fact that the Reds lost yesterday to the Pirates and Paul Skeens, who finished the season with a 1.97 earned run average. The Dodgers beat the Diamondbacks, so the Diamondbacks are still on the outside looking in. Cubs, of course, got the wild card along with the Padres. The final spot will go to either the Mets, the Diamondbacks, or the Reds, unless the Marlins pull off a miracle. I know it's not going to happen. Danny Burke's up next on the
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
And I'll tell you, there are a lot of happy faces at Prime Video and its parent company, Amazon. The first Thursday Night Football game of their season was this past Thursday, and they got 17 million plus. And that is the best viewership they have had in the run of TNF. More than that, the internet and social media response to it was terrific. A lot of people felt that Al Michaels and Curb Street have now really come into their own as a play-by-play team.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Credit to the Giants, who were so good in April and then since then just kind of fell apart. Now they're back in it again. I think the Mets will get in, but it is fascinating that they'll play the Marlins here the last 3 games of the season. And I know without a doubt that the Marlins are going to line up Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, and top guys to try and beat the Mets.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got Danny Burke in from Odd Shopper. Normally we chop up some baseball with Danny, but of course a lot of football going on too. We thought we would mix it up a little bit here on the show. Danny, welcome back to NewsWire. Great to have you back here tonight, and maybe you can help us out with this game this evening, because anybody who says they have a strong opinion on Thursday Night Football, they're just baiting you here. This is a tough one, man. Seattle takes on Arizona. Cardinals could have won last week, made some mistakes down the stretch. They haven't played the best opponents. Maybe you could say the same for Seattle. I do feel like they moved to a 1.5 point favorite off the strength of beating the Saints at home, which is odd too. 43.5 is the total here. So I guess I kind of feel, Danny, like both teams are a little bit above average. So does that mean with 2 minutes left in the game, someone's going to line up for a kick and that's just the variance of playing in the NFL? Or is there something more to this tonight?
Yeah, it certainly could be that, Craig, especially on a short week, primetime division opponents, right? Often you see it become a close game. And you make a valid point, right? I mean, like you look at this Arizona team and I don't want to say narrowly escaped, but it was a lot closer than the box score indicates what happened week 1 against the Saints. They ended up winning, they ended up covering, but the Saints had a game time drive potentially. Then the week after, they were dominating Carolina, and it was kind of a fluke. The Panthers got back into it, but the stats should have looked better for Arizona than they did. And then last week they had a chance to win it, blew it against this Mac Jones-led San Francisco team. On the other side, obviously, Seattle's looked great in several instances. Obviously, last week against one of the worst teams in the NFL, the Saints. The week prior against the Steelers, whose defense is obviously up in question. So, all this kind of, as you're like mentioning, like it's a big question mark with this game this early in the season. So I think the short week in home field gives a very slight advantage to Arizona, plus the fact that Arizona's defense has been slightly improving since the past couple of seasons. I think that will power them through here. And if Zach Charbonnet can't go, Kenneth Walker, outside of the one game against Pittsburgh, has been very ineffective. So if it's just the main workload is on him, I don't think they're going to be able to establish their ground attack. So I actually like, an angle with a Sam Darnold prop. We could get into that. But, I kind of lean Arizona in this game here, Craig. But, I don't know if I'm as passionate about it as I have been in other instances.
Yeah, you'll be watching the Cubs tonight. I know. You could tell the truth. It's fine. All right, so player, let's go with the receiving props. We'll start there, and you'll tell me if you have any positions this evening. So Jackson Smith-Njigba has really emerged as a wide receiver 1. No doubt about that. With all the wide receivers they've had in the past, Lockett, Baldwin, I mean, he fits right in that category of being their guy. McBride is 64.5. Boy, Harrison's number just keeps falling, 47.5. Will this guy ever get going? I don't know. Cooper Kupp, 42.5. And then a kid I think who's going to emerge at some point, Torrey Horton, is 25.5. Very dynamic player. We saw him return a punt 95 yards for a touchdown. I definitely think that he bodes well for the future, but I'm not sure about the present. So any position on any of these guys tonight? I kind of feel like some unders maybe in play here. Oh.
Yeah, that's where my thought process was leaning with, believe it or not, Jackson Smith-Njigba. And will I actually get there? Probably not, just because, man, it feels really difficult to bet against this guy. But we're selling high on him, right? I mean, he's been incredible these first few games, and now certainly the books are adjusting. And if you're Arizona in the secondary, obviously you have to contain him as best as possible. But is that even going to be possible for this Arizona secondary that has really struggled so far? And I think that's ultimately what's keeping me off. I mean, Ricky Pearsall got 117 receiving yards. McMillan, the rookie, 100. Olave went 7 of 13 for 54 receiving yards. So, I mean, the potential is obviously there for JSN. I would lean under on a higher number. Don't think I'll get there officially. With Marvin Harrison Jr., I think conversely, this is the buy low spot on him. I mean, let's be honest. He's probably not going to drop any more wide open passes that could potentially lead to a touchdown. So I would gravitate toward his over for receiving yards. And I definitely would be on his over 3.5 receptions if it weren't for the fact that it's about minus 147 with the juice, which is pretty steep right now. But I do think he gets to 4 receptions.
All right, so let's go. Well, before we get to Seattle and Arizona, let's do rushing yards real quick. So I got to be fully transparent on this one, Danny. So in fantasy, I'm having an awful year. I mean, it's just the truth. But I do have Trey Benson, so this is going to be the only hope I have moving forward here, that this guy becomes who I think he was going to. I drafted him super high, waiting on him, and I hate to see that Connor got hurt, but this is who I got. His total is 58.5, so the odds makers are sort of telling us it's the Benson show tonight. You see Kenneth Walker, as you alluded to, his struggles 52.5, Kyler Murray 27.5. Any positions on those three, then we'll move on to some other games.
So I certainly think that Trey Benson is a great acquisition in the long run. Will it be full force tonight? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, you still got to give a little bit of credit to the Seattle defense, so that causes me some reservations. But again, you're right. I mean, like losing James Conner is obviously a terrible thing. A leader on this team, he can kill you in the receiving aspect and ground effort, but he was averaging just 3 yards per carry, where with Benson, he was at 6 yards per carry. So I actually think this could maybe be a benefit to some degree for Arizona to get more reps for the younger Benson, who seems to be more explosive. However, that could have been a benefit from, the main workhorse being Conner, and then Benson kind of gets them with the weaker part of their defense after they're trying to beat up on Conner. But we'll have to see. I think you should have some optimism with him, though.
One of the biggest lines of the week in the NFL, Danny. Lions taking on the Browns. I think probably by game time this is 10. Total 44.5. The Browns, sleptwalk through 3.5 quarters, then all of a sudden found a way to win that game. We know that was a little bit fluky, but their defense is legit. Can they keep this close at all?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a game where maybe the first quarter and a half Cleveland's defense can bend before they inevitably break. I wrote up about this game earlier, and I mean, at 8.5, it was a perfect teaser opportunity for Detroit, right? Tease them down 6 points to -2 in the hook. You cross the key numbers of 7 and 3, but now at 9 in the hook, you lost the value on doing so. But if you were forced to make a play here, Craig, if you get it under double digits, Detroit is the right side. Let's be honest. I mean, Cleveland's offense is not going to be able to keep up. And again, at some point, this Detroit offense will break Cleveland's defense. As good as they've been, they won't be able to hold up on the road here.
If you don't turn the ball over in this game, I would think the Lions win easily, but that was the Packers' issue last week. All right, real quick, Jaguars, 49ers, still unclear as to who quarterbacks here. 49ers -2.5, total 46.5. It sort of tells you here that maybe, I don't know, am I crazy here, that if Mac Jones starts, that maybe the Jags are the right side? Seems like a weird line here. I know San Francisco's better than Jacksonville, but why is this line 2.5?
Yeah, I was actually seeing, 3.5, 3, and I think it might fall right on that 3 spot. But I know it's kind of one of those gross things, right, Craig, that we always see in betting. You're like, why is San Francisco down here? And then that kind of leads you to take in Jacksonville. And that's probably the side I would go with, but one of the uglier games. Probably won't partake.
Have a great weekend, Danny. Thanks.
Frank Reich is the head coach. You beat Stanford to end that season to clinch that 10th win, the hottest team in the country. You can't keep them out, Joe.
So now Stanford, because they beat Boston College last week, okay.
Notre Dame's in the top 25 today. They're going to have 10 straight victories. There's no way they stay out. Now, are you telling me that they're going to get tripped up by NC State?
NC State's
Devin
undefeated.
Leary still there? I don't even know.
NC State, Dave Torrance there.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Mike McDaniel got a personal victory.
Yeah, he gets fired on the tarmac. Okay, I can
yeah.
go back. Yeah.
Well, this has been my take on the Dolphins. I think you'll agree. The more they lose, Tyreek Hill becomes the most important player in football. Because Tyreek Hill getting traded becomes likelier and likelier.
Yeah.
And Don, he's not going to get traded to the Cleveland Browns.
Correct.
This is a guy who's going to shift Super Bowl markets if he is dealt.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the third and the fourth spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. A big quarterback change in New York as Jackson Dart takes over signal calling. Also, could we see Another week of Marcus Mariota, or will it be Jaden Daniels and also a big rivalry on Sunday Night Football? Let's preview some NFL games on today's Sports Grid Sound Off. Desperation time for the New York Giants. It's the only way you could put it at this point. They're 0-3. They can't score. So they made a change at quarterback, and they're going to their high draft pick quarterback, Jackson Dart, who will make his NFL start this week, and it's a tough one going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. It was a decision that was not easy, apparently, to Brian Daboll, but to everybody else on the outside looking in, something had to change. Here's Daboll on the change to give Dart his first shot.
It's my decision. We're going with Jackson. We're going to get him ready to play this week and the remainder of the season. He's going to do everything he can. Russ will be the backup. The conversations that I've had with these young men will be private. The details will be private. All I can tell you is we're going with Jackson, and we're getting ready to play. So I'm not going to add too much to it. Those are private conversations. It's my decision, and we're going with Jackson.
Why did you make the decision?
Again, those are conversations I have with each player. Again, he's our starter. We're going forward with Jackson, and we're going to get him ready to play.
What do you expect from the coach?
Expect him to prepare. Expect him to go out here and get better each time he plays. It's not always going to be perfect, but I do think that he has the right makeup and athleticism. And look, we're going to do everything we can do to help him be the best player. I know he is as well. It's not just on one person. It's on the entire team. And that's what we're going to do.
All right, so it's the Dart show for the Giants. We'll see. We don't know who's running the show this week at quarterback for Washington. I have a feeling we'll know that later today if Jaden Daniels practices. If not, it could just be Marcus Mariota another week. Same could be said for Terry McLaurin, who showed up on the injury list and also has not practiced. But let's get an update from Dan Quinn as to whether or not we'll see both Daniels and McLaurin on the field this week.
So first, let's start with Jaden. He'll continue in his return to play process, and you'll see him out there today in a limited fashion. And we'll continue to rely on the medical team, to fully clear him. But what I can say is, man, he is doing everything you possibly can to get there. The guy's the ultimate competitor for us. You know that, I know that, but he is absolutely digging it.
So with Terry, what can you say that you see getting more information on his quad, and what's the level of concern for him for Sunday?
Yeah, it's pretty normal that when you have something that a second opinion takes place, that's not uncommon at all. Honestly, it's just the opposite. It's really common. Almost everybody does that in some spaces. So as we get into, I'll have a better answer, as I get closer to, or as I get into Friday, then we'll have a sense for, okay, where does it look like for Sunday?
What a great game it should be Sunday night as Micah Parsons makes his debut against his old team. Now, of course, Parsons has played thus far. Mixed results, I think that's fair to say. But he'll be motivated going into Sunday Night Football when the Dallas Cowboys take on the Green Bay Packers. Once upon a time, a great rivalry. I'm not sure that there is one even going into Sunday, but here is Matt LaFleur on the matchup and how things are just very different than they have been in the past.
Oh, you're starting from scratch. Yeah, different scheme. They're asking the guys to do different things, obviously different players every year. So, but certainly I think when you look at their offense, they're an explosive offense, and they do a good job both in the run game and the pass game. I think Dak's playing at a really high level. They've got playmakers on offense, and then defensively with Eberflus. I've got as much respect for him as almost anybody in this league, just in terms of his ability to get guys to go out and play. Number one, they play sound defense, but they're in their infant stages right now. Just a new scheme, and it takes time for all that to gel and come together. So hopefully it doesn't gel this week for them. And then you look at their special teams, and I think they've got all their specialists are Pro Bowl caliber type players. So it's going to be a good challenge.
Kind of funny that the Dallas Cowboys keep getting these prime time guys. I feel like they could go 2-15 and we'd still be talking about the Cowboys playing in prime time. All right, coming up next, speaking of prime time, Notre Dame always in that category. They take on Arkansas this week and laid a dud completely on defense this season. Total of 64.5 in a Notre Dame football game. Paul Stone is going to join us next. We'll break down the Irish and Hogs, as well as a couple other games on the college football slate. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We'll be right back.
Frank Reich is the head coach. You beat Stanford to end that season to clinch that 10th win, the hottest team in the country. You can't keep them out, Joe.
So now Stanford, because they beat Boston College last week,
They're ranked.
Okay.
Notre Dame's in the top 25 today. They're going to have 10 straight victories. There's no way they stay out. Now, are you telling me that they're going to get tripped up by NC State?
NC State's
Devin
undefeated.
Leary still there? I don't even know.
NC State, Dave Torrance there.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Mike McDaniel got a personal victory.
Yeah, he get fired on the tarmac.
Like,
Like, okay, I can go back. Yeah.
Well, this has been my take on the Dolphins. I think you'll agree. The more they lose, Tyreek Hill becomes the most important player in football. Because Tyreek Hill getting traded becomes likelier and likelier.
Yeah.
And Don, he's not going to get traded to the Cleveland Browns.
Correct.
This is a guy who's going to shift Super Bowl markets if he is dealt.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
NFL season with about 750,000 downloads. Really interesting when you look at the third and the fourth spot. You have Bet365 and Fanatics, which were, again, that first week, they were the only sports books that grew. The good news for the other sports books in terms of downloads this week is even when you take out Fanatics and Bet365, app downloads still grew about 20% across the board overall.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Always great to catch up with Paul Stone from Paul Stone Sports. Check him out online, Paul Stone Sports. Make sure you get involved with the college football season with Paul. He's got some great plays to give out today here on the show. We'll see what ends up happening in this wild world of college football. And Paul, welcome back here to NewsWire. Appreciate you coming on. And if you like offense, I think we're in store for maybe a good one here. I mean, Notre Dame can't stop anybody on defense. I did not think that would be the case this season. I understand that Arkansas is not doing that. Look at this total, 64.5 for an Irish game. They're 4.5-point favorites on the road this week. I know that Notre Dame, Paul, is better than Arkansas, but I don't know what's going on with the Irish this season and their defense.
Yeah, they certainly have not played sound defense to this point. You wouldn't have seen it coming. I mean, they had a lot of people back, played great defense last year. It's just the beauty of sports. I guess it's why we watch. You can't ever totally predict what's going to happen. Notre Dame, looking at this game, I mean, they're obviously the only team in the country to have lost to 2 teams currently ranked in the top 10. And they took both those teams to the final seconds, losing to Miami, Florida, and Texas A&M by a total of 4 points. So, if one game goes Notre Dame's way or if both, we're talking about the Irish in a totally different light here. But as it is, if they sweep their final 10 games, they might get in the playoffs. But if they stub their toe one more time, they absolutely won't get in the playoffs. And that sudden death journey begins this weekend in Fayetteville. Looking at it, it looks like it's going to be a game certainly that's going to feature a lot of points. I get a little bit leery when those totals start creeping up into the mid-60s, playing those overs. It looks too good to be true. But I'm concentrating on the side here, Craig. You've got an Arkansas team that, like Notre Dame, is struggling. The Hogs trying to avoid their 3rd straight defeat. Last week, Arkansas appeared to be driving for the winning points. They're inside the Memphis 10, under 90 seconds to go, and their top running back, Mike Washington Jr., fumbles deep in Memphis territory, gives Memphis the 32-31 victory. Arkansas obviously heavily relying on 6'6", 225-pound dual-threat quarterback Taylor Green. I think one of the more exciting players in all of college football, very physical, packs a punch, and he has really developed since his maiden season a few years ago at Boise State, where he began his career. He's a guy who's passed for almost 1,200 yards, run for another 360 this year. He's accounted for 14 touchdowns, 12 through the air, 2 on the ground. Will be interesting to see how the Irish deal with Taylor Green. But again, this Notre Dame team, you look at this matchup with Arkansas, they appear to hold the edge at every position in my mind, with the exception of quarterback. I think they're going to run the ball very successfully on Arkansas. Arkansas in their last 2 games against Memphis and Ole Miss, they've given up 73 points, 964 yards, 6.8 yards per play. I think Notre Dame's running back tandem of Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price going to come up big. I'm going to take Notre Dame and lay the 4.5 on the road over Arkansas.
All right. Pick one from Paul here. Let's get to another showdown here where Louisville has played themselves into a pretty significant favorite this week at Pittsburgh. In fact, I've seen some line movement, I think, in this game. Paul, you correct me if I'm wrong here. I think I saw at one point Louisville maybe a little bit bigger of a favorite. I don't know if that's still the case today. 4.5-point favorite as of right now. What do you make of this game at noon Eastern on a Saturday?
I'll tell you, there's several aspects to this matchup that appeal to my handicapping taste, and it's pretty much all from the Pittsburgh side. First of all, Pittsburgh is off a defeat, lost to West Virginia 2 weeks ago, 31-24 in overtime. They're in Morgantown in the backyard brawl, and I do like teams coming off a defeat, especially early in the year when their goals are still in place, still in focus. I think it can get them reset. They also have the early season bye, which is good for resetting, gives them an opportunity as well to do some teaching. And something else I like, they are getting points at home, and I love home underdogs, especially when they're playing a conference team, and especially in the case of Louisville, when that conference team beat them by 4 touchdowns 10 months ago. So I like all those things from Pitt's standpoint. Louisville, they come in undefeated at 3-0, but they have faced a trifecta of lightweights, to put it mildly. I shouldn't say lightweights. James Madison's certainly not a lightweight, so I'll back up on that. But their 3 opponents, FCS, Eastern Kentucky, James Madison, and Bowling Green, not exactly a murderer's row of opponents. And with due respect to James Madison, the Dukes actually led Louisville 14-6 midway through the third quarter before Louisville closed strong and won by a misleading count of 28-14. Louisville, they have not been good as a road favorite. 1-7 against the spread as an away favorite, dating back to the start of 2022. Their quarterback, Miller Moss, the transfer from Southern Cal, last year in 4 road starts for USC, and he did throw the ball a bunch of times, so I want to be, spirit of full disclosure. But on the road in 4 starts, those games being against Michigan, Minnesota, Maryland, and Washington, he threw a total of 7 interceptions. So he had some interception woes on the road last year. Might that continue at Pittsburgh? I give Pittsburgh the advantage actually at quarterback with Eli Holstein. Louisville has injury issues. Stanquan Clark, their linebacker, a starter last year. He's out for the season, obviously won't play. Their top running back, Isaac Brown, he played 2 plays last week, only had 1 carry. Their other guy, Duke Watson, who also, like Brown, starred as a true freshman last year, he didn't play at all last week. Neither or both of these guys, could play. It's kind of up in the air. Maybe both will play, maybe both won't. Who knows? Maybe 1-1.
Right.
But those guys are going to be banged up regardless. I just like a lot of things in Pitt's corner. Again, they're 10-5. I'll add that against the spread as a home dog in their last 15 as a home pup. Give me Pitt plus 4.5 over Louisville in the ACC.
All right, should be a fun matchup there. And then the final one, Paul, seems to be a pretty big line in the Southeastern Conference these days. Again, another line I think I've noticed may have moved a bit. You'll tell me. Tennessee, 7.5-point favorites. I've seen some bigger ones here as well. Total 63.5. Is this a matter of Tennessee just being way too talented for the Bulldogs, or is this a potential look-ahead spot for the Volunteers, Paul?
Yeah, Tennessee opened at 10, -10 at some market-making books on Sunday. Has been around 7.5, seeing pretty much a consensus 8 right now. But this is going to be Tennessee's first true road game. They opened the season in Atlanta, won a neutral site game over Syracuse, 45-26. They're going into a hostile environment for the first time, and that includes their Appalachian State transfer quarterback, Joey Aguilar. He's never started a true road game for the Volunteers, certainly hadn't started a game on the SEC road. And I hear that the Cowbells have been outlawed there in Starkville maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but man, they are still in full force. So I think the Cowbells will be clanging. That's a tough place to play, Davis Wade Stadium, one of the more underrated venues perhaps in the SEC. So that's a tough place to get your first start. You got this Mississippi State team. They come in at 4-0. They've already defeated one top 15 opponent this year at home, beat Arizona State 24-20 in week 2 as a 6.5-point home underdog. Arizona State at the time ranked 13th. One of the reasons for Mississippi State's solid play this year, the health and play of their quarterback, Blake Shapen, missed most of last year due to a shoulder injury. Guy who's got a veteran presence, 31 career starts. This year, 67 of 100, 884 yards, 8.8 yards per attempt with 7 touchdowns. Tennessee, important to note, they'll be without both their starting cornerbacks again. Cornerback Jermod McCoy has not played yet this season. Cornerback Ricky Gibson out for the year. That certainly affects Tennessee's ability to defend the pass. I think Mississippi State's going to keep it close. I think they've got a puncher's chance. I like the Bulldogs +8 with the Cowbells in the background over the Tennessee Volunteers.
All right, so Paul will be listening and watching for that. Great stuff, as always. Appreciate you coming on. We'll check back next week here on NewsWire. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. We'll see you next week. Good luck this weekend.
All right, Paul Stone Sports. Make sure you check them out online. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. Let's play a little game of buy or sell. It would appear from most of the reports, George, that Mike McDaniel is going to keep his job as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. This is a long season, though, and they're already 0-3. Buy or sell, McDaniel will be the Dolphins' head coach at the end of the season.
He's going to get fired. All right, it's either now, later in the season, at the end of the season. He's not making it to next year. So the only question is, do they let him go towards the end of the season here? New York, Carolina, Chargers, Cleveland, Atlanta, Baltimore, bye. Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington going into that bye. And that Washington game, by the way, is in Europe somewhere. So I don't think he survives that. I don't think he's going to survive the bye week. I think it's going to go 1-3 of those games, maybe even lose all 4 of those games. No. And I think they will trade some players away, so they're going to be a worse team than they are now here. No, I'm going to sell this. He does not make it to the end of the season. I think they're going to fire him after week 11, if I had to guess. I think it's the perfect spot because not only is there a bye week, tough schedule beforehand, but then you have New Orleans at home. Good place for a new coach to start.
My thing is this, George, and here's why I am going to buy this. I think he's going to make it through the year and then he's going to be fired. Is because I just think it is rock bottom right now. They're 0-3. So, are they going to lose 3 consecutive games again this season? I don't think so. I think they're going to win 6 games or 7 games, which tells me it's win, loss, 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 win, loss, loss, So I just think they make the change at the end of the year. If they're not going to make it now and they're 0-3, the only thing that I would say the caveat would be is if they lose in their next game. If they lose that next game, then 0-4, yes, I think it happens. I don't think they will, though. So I am going to buy this.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I got Brad Thomas in the house. We love checking in with Brad and get some opinions on games and some player props ahead of the NFL weekend. So let's bring him in, see if we can get some early leans on some of this stuff. Maybe there's a prop or two that we could get ahead of. Brad, thanks for coming on NewsWire. One of the lightly viewed, watched, and probably bet games of the weekend, I'm going to guess, is the first one. But we do all games here. We don't discriminate here against the awful games on the schedule. Panthers and Patriots at 1 o'clock Eastern, total of 43.5. I mean, I guess I'm a little bullish on what I saw last week from Carolina. And I guess I should also say that I'm not surprised that the Patriots are not anywhere close to what people thought they would be at the beginning of the season. And look, they probably should have won that game last week against Pittsburgh, but they just handed them the game. Do you like any positions this weekend in this game or any props as well? Let's start there.
Yeah, I'm actually going with the Panthers plus 5.5. And it's more than just the Falcons. This stems from the second half against the Cardinals. They outscored the Cardinals 21 to 0, 18 to 0, somewhere around those lines to end the game. 3 straight touchdowns. They went for 2, so my math is a little clouded there. But I legitimately thought that the Panthers found something, whether that was confidence, whether that was execution towards the end of that Cardinals game. A lot of people want to say the Cardinals took their foot off the gas. Didn't believe it. Then we fast forward and they play against the Falcons. They destroyed the Falcons 30-0. They made the Falcons question whether they were throwing it to open receivers. If you saw that headline where they just have to do a better job of finding the open players or getting guys open. That when your coach is making statements like that, that means your defense humbled them. And I think they can push this over and have more success against the New England Patriots. It's funny because the Panthers defense not great, right? But last season, they were towards the bottom, if not last, in just about every defensive metric in terms of EPA per play, success rate, DVOA. Now they're starting to creep up about middle of the pack, while I think the Patriots are still a work in progress. So I like Carolina to cover the 5.5. I'd imagine if I put smart money, it's going to be 4.5, if not lower before close.
All right, fair enough. Now, Eagles Buccaneers this week. The Eagles are becoming that team now that have that little bit of the luck factor here, Brad. It's like bet against them at your own risk, because they're going to pull off covers like they did last week. They're a dangerous team. And by the way, there aren't going to be many games this year where the Eagles are only a field goal or a field goal and a half favorite. That's the case this week against the Buccaneers. Total of 44.5 in Tampa on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Brad, this will be a close game in proximity to you, a little bit further from me. Weather, I mean, I guess these days could be a factor, as it is every single day, especially here in South Florida. Would you put yourself up against the Eagles in this spot with the Buccaneers at home? I mean, they're playing really good football on defense, but offensively, it seems like they've had the luck side on their factor. That's for sure.
It's a funny game, especially for me, because I'm a massive Jalen Hurts fan and a huge Bucs fan. So I typically go when the Eagles have been here the last few times, and it's been victories for Tampa Bay. There's so much stacking up against this Buccaneers team, though, right? Like the injuries are just adding up. Injuries on the offensive line, injuries now to Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan at the beginning of the season. It becomes a lot of pressure coming into the quarterback. Yet the Philadelphia Eagles don't have that high of a sack rate so far this season. Granted, they played 2 quarterbacks who are really good at avoiding sacks in Dak Prescott and Patrick Mahomes. But I do believe that with the injuries adding up, you have to look at the Eagles. The Eagles offense has been atrocious and the Bucs defense has been pretty good. But I don't think this is a scenario where the Eagles need to go out there and score 28 plus points to cover the 3.5 against the Buccaneers. Not having Mike Evans basically puts the ownership on the run game of Bucky Irving and the weight on Emeka Egbuka. That is 2 really, really young players that are going to have to be the driving force of your offense against a really talented first run defense for the Philadelphia Eagles and a really talented defense overall for the Eagles. That win that the Eagles had against the Rams was probably one of the most impressive wins I've seen, because they played like absolute crap against a really, really talented team and still found a way to win that game. I want to talk about one more play in this. I was doing some just random digging and looking at rush lanes and rush coverage percentages of quarterbacks. And I saw the Eagles were actually pretty low or high, I guess would be high in that sense, where they allow a lot of scramble percentages because their rush lanes are pretty bad by their pass rushers. I think Baker Mayfield over 15.5 rushing yards without Mike Evans, knowing that they could be playing from behind, is a really good prop in this game.
Now, tonight's game is, I think, compelling in the sense that we're just really not sure which team has a better shot, I think, to show that they're worthy of the record that they've gotten, because, Brad, they both played the Saints, and I think at the end of the season, no matter how well the Saints have played, I think they're going to end up with the worst record in the NFL. 1.5 points. This is a line flip from Cardinals -1 to Seattle -1.5. I mean, everybody I'm bringing on the show, Brad, I'm going to be honest here. They're all over the board here. I got some Cardinals people. I got some Seattle people. Is it better just to bet on props tonight in this game? Seems like a tough one to call.
I think Seattle's the better team, but yeah, I think props is where you have to go. And this might be a game where I have far too many props. First, I went with Sam Darnold passing over. A lot of zone for the Arizona Cardinals there, especially zone that I think is beatable, whether they're playing quarters, whether they're playing the Tampa 2, or they're playing cover 1. A lot of really valuable spots for guys like Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith-Njigba. And you just look at how many passing yards they've given up to guys like Mac Jones, Bryce Young, and Spencer Rattler there. And then I also like another one. I did a little parlay, Jackson Smith-Njigba, 50-plus yards, with Trey Benson, 3+ yards. Just like the Cardinals, the Seahawks run 60% zone percentage. I think that Trey Benson will see 6-7 targets in this game. He just has to corral 3 of them.
Gotcha. Okay. So Benson over on the receptions. I just want to make sure I got that correct. 3.5 receptions. Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Fair enough. All right, Brad, good luck with all the plays this week. Some great breakdowns from you as always. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. Good luck to your Bucks this weekend against Philadelphia. Appreciate it. Yeah. Should be a fun game. All right. We'll take a quick break. When we come back next, it's time for the new ABS system in Major League Baseball, aka Robo-Umps. How's it going to work? Our friends at Front Office Sports will weigh into that. So make sure you stay on the grid. And then Brady Cannon will join us to talk about the carnage in the contest leagues this past week. And Survivor, by the way. Don't go away. Let's play a little game of buy or sell. It would appear from most of the reports, George, that Mike McDaniel is going to keep his job as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. This is a long season, though, and they're already 0-3. Buy or sell, McDaniel will be the Dolphins' head coach at the end of the season.
He's going to get fired. All right, it's either now, later in the season, at the end of the season. He's not making it to next year. So the only question is, do they let him go towards the end of the season here? New York, Carolina, Chargers, Cleveland, Atlanta, Baltimore, bye. Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington going into that bye. And that Washington game, by the way, is in Europe somewhere. So I don't think he survives that. I don't think he's going to survive the bye week. I think it's going to go 1-3 of those games, maybe even lose all 4 of those games. No. And I think they will trade some players away, so they're going to be a worse team than they are now here. No, I'm going to sell this. He does not make it to the end of the season. I think they're going to fire him after week 11, if I had to guess. I think it's the perfect spot because not only is there a bye week, tough schedule beforehand, but then you have New Orleans at home. Good place for a new coach to start.
My thing is this, George, and here's why I am going to buy this. I think he's going to make it through the year and then he's going to be fired. Is because I just think it is rock bottom right now. They're 0-3. So, are they going to lose 3 consecutive games again this season? I don't think so. I think they're going to win 6 games or 7 games, which tells me it's win, loss, 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 win, loss, loss, So I just think they make the change at the end of the year. If they're not going to make it now and they're 0-3, the only thing that I would say to caveat would be is if they lose in their next game. If they lose that next game, then 0-4, yes, I think it happens. I don't think they will, though. So I am going to buy this.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. There's supposed to be one game in Major League Baseball today with major postseason implications that was supposed to already get underway, and I thought that that's what I would be doing here with you for this 30-second clip. Pirates are taking on the Reds today. The Reds, of course, are fighting with the Mets and the Diamondbacks and the Marlins for the final postseason spot. And as of right now, they're currently in a rain delay in Cincinnati, Ohio. So thus, we have no update on the Pirates and Reds. All right. Frank says there's a long delay there. No delay in talking about the future of what Major League Baseball is going to do in terms of umpires. Next season, they're going to the new ABS system, otherwise known as using robot umpires to help out with balls and strikes. How is it going to work? Some of the pros and the cons of the system. Let's check in with our friends at Front Office Sports. They've got a full breakdown.
Well, after more than 6 seasons of testing in the minors, Major League Baseball says their new automated ball strike robo-umpire will be used starting next season. This to challenge calls made by human umpires. So just how exactly will this new system work, and could it lead to less player and manager ejections? Well, let's take a look at that in today's main event. All right, let's bring in FOS reporter Eric Fisher. So, Eric, how exactly is the robo-ump ABS system going to work here?
So, if anybody remembers from spring training with the challenge-based system, that's how it's going to work, that each team will have 2 challenges to start a game. Only the pitcher, the batter, or the catcher can initiate a challenge. The batter, if you remember, tapping their heads if they didn't like a call, they can initiate the challenge. If a challenge is successful, they retain that challenge so that the team would keep 2 as long as they continue to be correct. But it's going to be, again, that challenge-based system and not every pitch called electronically.
Yeah, and we've seen years of testing with this system in the minor leagues. As you mentioned, we've seen it in spring training, the All-Star game. Why now is this the right time for them to roll it out going into next season?
They finally worked out all of the logistics. This has been a long time coming. You're correctly pointing out that they finally worked out all the logistics, and there's just a lot of sort of devil in the details in terms of making sure this really works out correctly. And what we saw 3 years ago with the pitch clock introduction is a pretty similar analog, that there was a lot of testing of that in the minors, and then they finally got that done. And once it hit the major leagues, it was a big success, and they're hoping for the same thing again here.
Eric, is there any chance that maybe this reduces the amount of manager or player ejections? Because think of how many ejections happen in a game purely for balls and strike calls.
Oh, I think there's going to be a big reduction because of that. Some of the research that we've seen is, close to 2/3 of those on-field ejections and those incidents directly relate to some issue stemming from ball and strike calls. So just taking down the temperature on that, I think it's going to have a big impact.
What are some of the concerns that people are having, whether players, managers, others, around how this system could not be great and how it's rolled out?
So there's one, of course, which is game flow. They feel like they've got that pretty well ironed out, that these reviews should take about 15 to 20 seconds, and it was pretty smooth during spring training. But anytime you introduce an additional review process like this, you want to make sure it's not clunky and it continues to work within the overall game flow. And then there's just a matter of matching up with each batter's actual strike zone, and they're going to do those sort of preliminary measurements and based on each player's height and so forth, and have that original strike zone mapped out. And that's sort of how the review is done, where you're matching the actual pitch versus the preset strike zone. Are those preset strike zones going to be done correctly? And that's just another logistical thing that's going to have to be worked out.
You mentioned a lot of the new rules and advancements that Commissioner Rob Manfred has implemented over the last couple of years. You talked to him at our Tuned In event last week. Do you feel like the success of things like the pitch clock and all these other things have sort of led to why ABS is being implemented here, because the commissioner sort of feels the wind behind his back right now?
Without question. And I asked him specifically about this, and I thought his answer was very thoughtful, that they put a lot of work into the pitch clock, did a lot of surveying, a lot of testing, a lot of years before it was rolled out in full, and then the actuality matched up with what they predicted. And what he told me was that gave me a lot of he, meaning Manfred, gave him a lot of confidence to go to the owners and say, we can change again. And again, because the process at the front end was so thoughtful and rigorous.
And all these changes, I know, have always, with any change, comes with criticism, especially taking away from what baseball's truly about. My final question to you, Eric, in these final seconds is, how does this still keep the human element and balance, maybe making the game more efficient?
Yeah, so it's important to remember that the human umpire is still going to be behind the plate calling every pitch, and there's roughly 25,000 pitches in any full week of MLB regular season play. It's a lot of pitches, and they're still going to be called by humans. What this does is just layer on some technology on top of that in those critical moments to get it right.
Well, after more than 6 seasons of testing in the minors, Major League Baseball.
There are right now 10 teams who are 0-2. Every team on this list is 0-2. These are the 7 teams through 2 weeks who have already been eliminated from the Super Bowl picture. First, the Cleveland Browns, who I believe were the worst team coming into this season. The Cleveland Browns are absolutely done.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Josh Heupel. I mean, please, dude, you got to be kidding me. How do you lose this game at home when you've got Georgia on the ropes with a iffy quarterback at best there in Gunnard, and you somehow figure out a way to lose that game? A game, Donnie, of which was pretty much in hand for Notre Dame, 3/4 of it.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It's our weekly visit with Brady Cannon, the contest show coming your way this weekend, so make sure you stay on the grid for that as the guys try and stay ahead of the pack, which is not easy to do considering this season's just been an absolute disaster for picking games. But Brady, we finally got some big upsets last week. I know that you guys were honed in on a couple of those, including the Cleveland Browns, which was a nice win outright. But let's take a look here at the Super Contest, which basically was another disaster. The most selected teams: the Texans, the Rams, who of course was a very, very tough beat, the Cowboys. Oh my gosh, I'm never taking the Cowboys. Why do I take the Cowboys as a favorite? Will we ever? Will we ever
A
learn
road
from
favorite,
this?
nonetheless.
Oh my gosh, never. I say that one every year and then I forget and take the Cowboys. Browns was a great win. Chargers, I know, was 3 in the Super Contest. I think they were 2.5 in the other one. So Brady, welcome
Correct.
to the show. How did things go this past week?
Pretty well, very well. One of the teams I play on went 4-1, and with the consensus faltering once again, 1-3-1 in the Super Contest, 1-4 in Circa. To flip the script there and go 4-1 with one of the entries I have was a big move up the leaderboard. In the Football Contest show that airs, of course, here on Friday nights on SportsGrid, we had another week where we went 2-3, and surprisingly enough, we remain ahead of the curve because the consensus has been so bad through the first 3 weeks of the season. Again, we are, below 500, but still better than average, better than, half of the field here because we've been doing better than the consensus. 2-3 each week in both the Circa and the Super Contest. So That doesn't sound like a great number, 2-3, but it's not bad. It's not 1-4. And again, we're still ahead of the curve. So, if you've gone 2-3 every week, I think you're feeling just fine. You turn that into some 3-2s and some 4-1s, and you start making your way on up.
Yeah, and again, there's some people at the top getting lucky at this point, but variance will certainly change. Week 4, we've still got a lot of quarterback questions going into this week, and definitely some big upsets and surprises in the National Football League. Any numbers that you may have gotten ahead of, Brady, before we get into Circa Survivor? Because I definitely want to hit on that as well.
Yeah, a lot of my numbers this week, Craig, came out exactly where the market lands. The Cardinals tonight, I made a pick 'em. They're getting 1.5. I kind of like Arizona tonight, but certainly not a game that we're going to use. We don't play Thursdays in the pick against the spread contest. And I think for Survivor, nobody's going to be running to the window to play basically a coin flip game. You do have some big favorites on the board. The Packers traveling to Dallas. We talk about the Cowboys. The Broncos, part of a Monday night doubleheader, hosting the Cincinnati Bengals off of a loss, a big point spread there. The Chargers going out east to face Jackson Dart. So I think there are some big favorites that will be popular in Circa Survivor. I know, we were talking about a few games, some ugly ducklings here on the schedule. And, if you have been a part of that consensus that has been faring so poorly in these initial weeks, I don't want to say it's time to just abandon ship and go rogue here. But some of these very unpopular games, it could be a good time to try and pick a winner in those, because you're going to be in a vast minority. We're talking about the Titans and the Texans, the Patriots and the Panthers, the Buffalo Bills and the New Orleans Saints. Do you have the guts to take the points with the Saints? I think those games right there could be opportunities to set yourself apart from the pack, because I don't see the majority landing on those 3 contests.
Yeah, me either. So it should be a fun week ahead of us. Now, last week in Circa Survivor, I'm going to break it down for you in the most granular terms here, Brady. 13,811 people survived to move on. So 13,000 people took Seattle. 3,154 people lost last week. 3,154. So 3,000 people took Green Bay. That's my breakdown for you. Right? I mean, doesn't it feel like that's got to be close?
We were on the Buffalo Bills on Thursday night, got home with that one, obviously. And then, yes, we were on Seattle. And I, like everybody else, I think it was truly 6,600, close to 40% of the pool was on Seattle. And I was a little bit worried about that. And boy, I was glad it was so easy. They just made mincemeat of the New Orleans Saints. That was really no sweat at all. And now I think this week gets tough with, again, there's always that challenge of who do you use and who do you save for the holidays? Now, the Buffalo Bills are not playing on Thanksgiving or Christmas. That is probably going to be, who knows, 50% maybe of the pool this week. But yeah, the Packers knocked a lot of people out last week. A lot of people were on the Atlanta Falcons. They, of course, were shut out by the Carolina Panthers. And then a lot of people, another 2,000 people, were nearly eliminated with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with the New York Jets coming back in dramatic fashion and nearly pulling that off. But Baker Mayfield, once again, pulls a rabbit out of his hat late in the game. He continues to do that. It'll be interesting to see what they do against the Philadelphia Eagles this week, who have now moved out to 3.5-point favorites. So I don't think people are going to be going back to the well with the Eagles or the Buccaneers in Survivor.
Yeah, I agree. So, as you look at it, as far as Survivor this week, and we're going to break a game down that's going to sort of speak to that, but I do feel that if you did not take the Bills last week, that you're doing that this week. I mean, obviously that's the big pick for everybody to take because and we'll get into this in our next segment too. I think the Saints, Brady, showed that if they're away, they're going to just get crushed. At home, it seems like they're going to play a little bit better, but I don't think they have any shot on the road. So that leads me to the next game that I want to talk to you about here, which is the other popular Super Contest pick this week, and also a popular, I think, Survivor pick. It's the Texans laying 7.5 against the Titans with a total of 38.5. I mean, 0-3 teams in the National Football League have an incredible mark of covering. But this is a very big number against Tennessee, and you have to believe, if you're going to go against the Titans, that they're going to rival the Saints for worst team in the NFL. So it's a danger pick, I think. But if we're going off what we saw last week, I think the Texans are the right side, because just because, Tennessee's hung around in some games, this sort of spread leads me to believe that that's where they're lumped in with the Saints this season, Tennessee.
Absolutely. And I made the number 7 myself, and it's pretty much right on 7. Yes, there are some 7.5s out there, but do you really want to lay 7.5, even 7 with the Houston Texans? Now, we expect that they feel like a better team than that. And you're right. This spread says a lot about how bad the Titans are. It feels like Survivor contest this year. You're just trying to find spots to pick on the Saints and pick on the Titans. And it's a good point you bring up about the Buffalo Bills. I was looking at the rest of their schedule. I imagine we'll use at least one entry on the Bills this week, because there's not what seems like a slam dunk spot the rest of the year. This is maybe the best spot left, even though they do have an easy schedule, and you'd love to have a team like that available to you later in the year. It feels like this is the best spot. I do believe Survivor will see some people land on the Texans. They're at home. They're 0-3. They should get a win here. But in against the spread contest, I don't want to lay it here with a team that has a lousy offensive line. Both of these defenses, I mean, what is that total telling you? Both of these defenses are pretty good, and the offenses have just been problematic. No running game for the Texans. This is an ugly one between two 0-3 teams, and yet one is favored by 7 or more. Weird game. I do believe you'll see some activity in Survivor, but probably very little. And again, like I said, it could be a good spot for you to play it against the spread, because I don't think you'll have much company in that market.
Yeah, and I don't even, honestly, don't even. I think either the Texans are going to win by a lot or they're going to lose. So for me, it's like not even teaser. It's not even a teaser play for me. Like I don't want to get involved in that. That's a fascinating game. All right, let's take a quick break here on NewsWire. When we come back, Brady's going to rejoin us. We'll hit on the Ryder Cup real quick and also break down some more games in the NFL. So don't go away.
There are right now 10 teams who are 0-2. Every team on this list is 0-2. These are the 7 teams through 2 weeks who have already been eliminated from the Super Bowl picture. First, the Cleveland Browns, who I believe were the worst team coming into this season. The Cleveland Browns are absolutely done.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Josh Heupel. I mean, please, dude, you got to be kidding me. How do you lose this game at home when you've got Georgia on the ropes with a iffy quarterback at best there in Gunnard, and you somehow figure out a way to lose that game? A game, Donnie, of which was pretty much in hand for Notre Dame, 3/4 of it.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Big golf event this weekend, Ryder Cup. Brady Cannon's back with us. He'll break that down for us. First, let's wrap up our discussions of a couple of games in the NFL. Brady, I believe, liked Carolina last week. They won the game outright against the Falcons. That's what it was. And they, easy win for them, by the way. It wasn't even close. I'm worried about the Falcons. Another team I'm worried about a little bit is the Patriots. So this is certainly a line that I don't get. Total of 43.5. I know the Patriots, Brady, if you didn't watch the game last week that they lost to the Steelers, and you wouldn't know that they fumbled 2 times and threw a pick in the red zone. And I'm guessing that's why this line is 5.5. But who are the Patriots to be laying 5.5 after the way that I guess they're going to win by 30, and I don't know football. That's what I see this. That's what I must be missing here. Total of 43.5 of this game. I mean, I could make the case that maybe Carolina's better than New England.
Yeah, I think you could. I mean, we're talking about picking on the Saints and the Titans. The Panthers are a pick-on team, certainly. Now, they finally, got one in the win column, but maybe the Patriots are that 4th team. Will you call them the 4th worst team in the NFL? I don't know if they deserve that designation, but they appear to be a pick-on team. They cannot run the ball. You mentioned the fumbling problems. It was funny. Cousin Sal, the Bill Simmons guy, started calling him Drake May Be. Drake may be. So very funny. I heard that earlier this week. People had such high expectations for this team in the offseason. They're not delivering. They're still a ways away. They just don't really have it all together. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are a great team. They have real trouble stopping the run. And that tells you about New England, because New England doesn't have great skill position weapons. And you would think the running game is what they're going to lean on. They couldn't get that done against a bad run defense in Pittsburgh either. Now you have the Panthers, who are not a very good team, don't have a very good defense, and they're coming off of a shutout. I have a feeling that's a sticky situation. When you have an NFL team that shuts someone out one week, what are they going to do the next week? I think they're going to come back down to earth a little bit. But exactly like you said, I can't lay 5. I think I even saw this spike to 6. I'm seeing this market all over the place. I saw 4.5 earlier this morning on the Patriots. I made the number 3. Now, am I giving the Panthers too much credit, or am I very anti-Patriot? I think it's more anti-Patriot. I think the Patriots ought to be favored by about 3.5 in this game. I don't want to take the Panthers, but if you made me take 5.5 or 6, I think I would.
Yeah, no, I agree. If this gets to 6.5, that's it for me. That would be it for me. I don't know. I'm missing something. All right. So biggest line of the season, naturally, as it should be, Bills against the Saints. Bills 15.5-point favorites, total 48.5. Miami fought Buffalo pretty good, I thought, this past week in that big number, and they ended up covering that number last Thursday night. But I want no part of the Saints here, Brady. I mean, as I suspected, eventually they're going to start losing by 30 and 40. And then, every once in a while they'll be at home. They're probably going to win a game or two. But Brady, that was probably the only game on the NFL schedule outside of maybe Colts-Dolphins where the game was over in like 30 seconds into the game. You're like, all right, that's it. It's over. Seattle's winning. They ran a 95-yard punt back for a touchdown like 6 minutes into the game. You're like, they have no chance of winning this game or even covering. So I'm not saying I'm laying 15.5 in an NFL game, but I can't back New Orleans at all.
If there was ever a rocking chair winner, that was the one. I mean, you sat back in your rocking chair and had no worries early and often in that Seattle Saints game last week. And that was a nice feeling, having 2 entries on the Seattle Seahawks in Circa Survivor. It's a stay away for me, Craig. I understand this line coming down because I don't care who is playing who. 17 points, 16.5, whatever in the NFL is a lot. I made it 17. But am I going to run to the window and lay 15.5 with Buffalo? No. I feel that are they going to have their foot on the gas the entire time? They may not even have to. That's the thing. Right. As New Orleans, that's the other thing, too. Talk about the Atlanta Falcons getting shut out last week and the New Orleans Saints getting absolutely bludgeoned in the head by Seattle last week. NFL teams, professional athletes do not like to be embarrassed. You would expect both of those teams to bounce back at least a little bit this week. Probably more so the Falcons. I think they have more to work with, more talent. But are the Saints going to get absolutely blown out a second straight week in a row? Probably not. But this is not a game I'm going to touch from an against the spread perspective. Again, I made it 17, but that's how many games are you going to lay 17 in the NFL and really turn a profit on a regular basis? Again, I don't care who's playing who, not all that often. Survivor, yeah, you might get over 50% of the field on the Bills this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where it's at. All right, so we can't let you go, Brady, without your opinion on the final big golf event of the year before we get to next season. It's the Ryder Cup. And, you know, fighting the Ryder Cup against college football in the NFL is really interesting, the time of the year that they end up doing this. Some really good games in football. But USA, prohibitive favorite, again, they're minus 145. We know that this doesn't always work out like this, but Europe is plus 160, and then ties are involved for those of you who have never followed this before. Do you simply see the U.S. running away with it this year? I believe, you know, I saw some minus 135s a couple of months ago. Why are they a bigger favorite now than they were then?
Well, they're getting all the attention in the betting markets. I know recently I saw a report from BetMGM that they're pretty heavily loaded on the United States side. And I think that's normal for when it is on the United States soil, that all the recreational bettors that want to have a little skin in the game are getting in on the home team. And I believe they deserve to be the favorite, but the price is starting to get very expensive in my eyes. And, you know, plus 170, I even saw plus 180 on Europe. I think that's ridiculous. Europe has the better team. They have the more experienced Ryder Cup roster. There's 4 rookies on the American side. Now, I have a feeling the U.S. finds a way to win this thing, but I think my best handicap is that this is going to be really close. I think we could be in for a thriller. This European side is tough as nails. We know that they typically, you know, this is their Super Bowl. It's also interesting that it's not necessarily us versus them. These guys play against each other every week on the PGA Tour. I think this will be a very hard-fought contest. I bet either side to win by margin of 1 to 3 points. I think we're going to get a tight one.
Keep that graphic up there, Luke, for a couple of seconds so people can screenshot that if they're watching on a mobile. Those are Brady's Ryder Cup picks. All right. Thanks a lot, Brady, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll catch up again next week.
Have a great weekend.
There are right now 10 teams who are 0-2. Every team on this list is 0-2. These are the 7 teams through 2 weeks who have already been eliminated from the Super Bowl picture. First, the Cleveland Browns, who I believe were the worst team coming into this season. The Cleveland Browns are absolutely done.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Josh Heupel. I mean, please, dude, you got to be kidding me. How do you lose this game at home when you've got Georgia on the ropes with a iffy quarterback at best there in Gunnard, and you somehow figure out a way to lose that game? A game, Donnie, of which was pretty much in hand for Notre Dame, 3/4 of it.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
All right, Major League Baseball's postseason heating up. By this time tomorrow, I think we could have some more definitive news on the standings and who is in and who is out in Major League Baseball, and maybe even by game time decisions and in-game live tonight, so make sure you catch that. On this edition of Last Licks, we check in on Cal Raleigh's groundbreaking home run. Also, Livy Dunn gets in some of the action as Paul Skeens has a season to remember, and also Mike Tomlin makes an interesting declaration from a game last season. It's time to wrap up the show with some Last Licks. All right, so with all of the controversy that surrounds these home run balls in Major League Baseball, we got a good moment yesterday. I'm not even sure how it ended, but we did get a good moment. So it is very rare in this day and age of Major League Baseball to hit 60 home runs. Let's just call it what it is. Once upon a time, Mark McGwire hit 70. Barry Bonds hit 73. We all know that maybe some other things were in play during that time. Sammy Sosa, I believe, hit 66. So actually hitting 60 in this day and age of baseball is not something that happens very often. So that's the kind of home run that's a milestone ball that you'd want back. So Cal Raleigh ends up hitting home run number 60 in Seattle. A fan catches the ball and he gives it away to a kid in the stands. How about that? Not even interested in cashing in on a 60 home run ball in Major League Baseball. But what happened after that's kind of funny, because the kid then has the ball and then security takes the kid away. Now, Frank, I read the story. I looked online. Did the kid end up giving the ball back? I can't find this anywhere. I know it happened late last night, but it seems to me that maybe the kid ended up taking the ball back and not giving it back to Cal Raleigh or Seattle or someone else. And by the way, you know, I've always said you're entitled to keep this stuff if you want to. You don't have to give these balls back. I mean, the guy who caught Mike Trout's 400th home run decided he just wanted a game of catch with him. Are you crazy? I digress. Good job by the fan in Seattle giving it to a kid. It absolutely shows that money, not about everything in this world. And with the way that that woman behaved, catching that home run in Miami a couple of weeks ago, I think that this was a really nice statement there made yesterday. Cal Raleigh catching, fan catching Cal Raleigh's home run. Okay, so there's no question at this point who the best pitcher in Major League Baseball is, right? This is an open and shut case. Is there anything to talk about? I know Tariq Skubal's having a great year. I know he's probably going to win the Cy Young. Zach Wheeler, when he's healthy, is great too. But there is nobody like Paul Skeens, who shut down the Cincinnati Reds yesterday. I mean, this guy's ERA on the season is under 2. In this day and age of everything, either a home run or a walk or a strikeout, Paul Skeens still finds a way to get it done. It was his last start of the season, and he went out in grand fashion, striking basically everybody out. And also a funny scene yesterday with Livy Dunn in attendance, as you could see, holding a beer and cheering on her hubby. They're not married. Are they even engaged yet? Or they're not engaged. I don't think are married yet. But Livy Dunn, who's very popular, former gymnast at LSU. That's where they met when they went to school there. So Livy Dunn knows how to get it done yesterday, showing up for Paul Skeens, her guy. Skeens basically as good as any pitcher that we've seen in years in Major League Baseball, just super dominant. All right, finally, last season, the Pittsburgh Steelers were taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Mike Tomlin, still the head coach of the Steelers, of course, came up with a novel idea. Apparently, Tomlin told his players that he did not want to see Joe Flacco enter the game, so said to make sure that Anthony Richardson did not get hurt in this one. Take a listen.
In the short term that Carson is playing for him. We were in a similar situation a year ago. We're playing in Indianapolis, man, and I commented to the guys that, you know, keep Richardson upright. Don't put Flacco in the game, and, you know, Flacco ended up in the game.
Wow. Okay. So Tomlin keeping it real. Not a big fan of Anthony Richardson, a quarterback in the NFL. I like the honesty. Yeah, I mean, look, there's no doubt that even Daniel Jones at this point is fair to say that's better than Anthony Richardson. This has got to hurt Richardson's ego if he saw this quote from Mike Tomlin. And this week, of course, the Steelers have a really tough matchup as they go overseas. It's the first game of the day in the NFL as they play 9:30 a.m. Eastern against Carson Wentz and those Minnesota Vikings. That'll do it for our show today. Thanks again to Danny Burke for coming on the program. In addition, Paul Stone, Brad Thomas, and Brady Cannon for talking some football here with us. Those were our guests here on the show today. In addition, we've got the updated standings here as we close out the show. The Reds still waiting to get underway here with, of course, the Pittsburgh Pirates as they finish out, but the Cleveland Guardians right now look like they're in the catbird seat to capture the Central as the Tigers absolutely have to win their game today to stay alive. Got to get in the postseason too. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks again to Luke, and for my director Frank, I'm Craig Mish. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Don't forget full previews of all the football games coming up this weekend on Game Time Decision and In Game Live. See you tomorrow.